Okay, hey everybody. So we are back again in China. I had a little detour through Japan, but now I'm back in China. And I found a nice little farming area, nice little farming community. I climbed up here in order to read you a story that I think, if I remember right, does have some farming themes in it. Okay, or events. So here we go. Mr. Ye's New Year. This is the seventh story, I think, in the Qilin Purse out of nine. There's only nine. I believe this is seven. So let's get started. This is Mr. Ye's New Year. A New Year in China, the New Year is a big deal. The New Year in ancient China was a very big deal as well. So let's look into this story right now. Mr. Ye's New Year. Some 600 years ago on New Year's Eve, Mr. Ye was on his way home after being gone for almost a year. In his sack was a silver Huan Pao, the salary for a year's teaching in a private school some 70 li away. Mr. Yi was very happy. He knew his wife would be waiting for him and for the money as well. She needed the money to buy food and wine for the New Year's Eve dinner. So he had been gone for about a year, just working, just working. He's got all that money that he worked for an entire year. No Chinese could afford to miss New Year's Eve dinner. It was the most important meal of the year, even more important than the dinner on New Year's Day. The Chinese always believed that a well-provided New Year's Eve dinner would usher them smoothly into a prosperous new year. See, told you, it's a big deal. A typical New Year's Eve feast would include sachuan, or four wholes, a whole chicken, a whole duck, a whole fish, and a whole leg of pork. Four kinds of cold meat, pao pao fan, or 8 treasure rice, a sweet rice dish with 8 ingredients, and papao ai, the 8 valuables, which is made of 8 different kinds of vegetables and soybeans. If people could afford it, they would cook enough to last for 15 days of the New Year celebration. It not only showed that they were well off enough to have food left over from the previous year, it also let them enjoy visiting with relatives and friends during the holidays without having to worry about cooking. Mr. Ye was quite sure that his wife had used up every penny she had and was waiting for rice to put into the pot, as the saying goes. He wished he had wings so he could fly back home and give that silver Huan Pao to his wife right away. As he walked on, he started to plan the menu for the New Year's evening dinner. He knew that they would probably not be able to buy 4 wholes, but at least his wife could get some pork and cook his favorite, Hong Xiao Zhu, pork stewed with red wine and red soybean sauce, which he would definitely wash down with his favorite rice wine. What happened in the next few seconds was almost too sudden to describe. Mr. Ye saw a woman run toward the river, just about to throw herself in. It was A Kin Sao, he realized, the wife of carpenter A Kin. He rushed to stop her, and in a flash, A Kin Sao was caught in his arms. "Let me go," she cried, "let me go." But Mr. Ye would not let go. "A Kin Sao," he said, "you mustn't end your life like this. What is the matter?" "Let me die," cried A Kin Sao. "I have not heard from A Kin for a whole year. He has either died or abandoned me. The rent on our land is long overdue, and now the landlord wants to sell my daughter, Ying Hua. I don't know what to do." "Don't worry," said Mr. Ye. "I am sure A Kin has just been delayed." "It can't be true. Since he left home a year ago, he has not written or even sent a message to me. I know he is dead. Oh, let me die," cried A Kin Sao. But the more she struggled, the tighter Mr. Ye held on. "I am certain A Kin did write," said Mr. Ye. He was thinking hard for words. Suddenly, A Kin Sao stopped struggling. "So you have a letter for me?" Mr. Ye let go of her and pretended to search his pockets. Then he smiled apologetically. No, I don't have a letter. Oh, cried Akinsel. She started for the river again. Don't, said Mr. Ye. Akin didn't ask me to bring you a letter, but he sent you some money. He took out the precious silver Huan Pao, rubbed it carefully on his robe, and handed it to Akin Sao. That was a year's worth of work, that money that he's giving away. A whole year he's giving it away. Akin Sao broke into a big smile as she took the Huan Pao. Ying Hua has saved us. Buddha protect us. Thank you, Mr. Ye. Mr. Ye watched Akin Sao hurry away. There goes my New Year's Eve dinner, he mumbled to himself. With heavy steps, he walked slowly toward home. Sure enough, Mrs. Ye was standing by the door when he arrived. Old man, here you are. I was worried that something might have happened. You must be tired. I'll get you some water to wash your face. After Mr. Ye had washed his face and sat down at the table, Mrs. Ye said, Old man, was this a good year for you? Oh, it was a good year. I earned a silver Huan Pao. Thanks be to Buddha. Now we can have a decent New Year's Eve dinner. Where is it? Old woman, I don't have it anymore. What? What did you do with it? I gave it to Akin Sao. Her rent is overdue and she has not heard from Akin for a whole year. She was about to drown herself. But what are we going to do? We don't have any food in the house. Couldn't you at least have saved part of it for us? I told her that it was from Akin. If I hadn't, she would not have taken it. But are we supposed to starve in the new year? We can't go to bed with empty stomachs. You will have to go and borrow some money. So Mr. Ye went out to borrow money. He knew that New Year's Eve was the worst time to do such a thing, not only because people were busy cooking dinner, but also because they believed that borrowers could bring them bad luck in the new year. Almost every door was shut in Mr. Ye's face, and when a man finally handed him a small package, all he got was some dirt wrapped in a nice piece of paper. Tired and disappointed, Mr. Ye went home. Let's go to bed and not think about dinner, he said to Mrs. Ye. I am too hungry to sleep, said his wife. Can't you do something? What do you want me to do? At least you can get us some sweet potatoes from the fields. Those sweet potatoes don't belong to us. Come over, let me whisper into your ear. Mr. Ye leaned over. What? You want me to steal? Shh, don't use that word. Say move. That's the same thing. I'm not going to do it. Old man, are you going to starve us to death? Mrs. Ye began to cry. Finally, Mr. Ye decided that he had to move some sweet potatoes into their home, whether he liked it or not. So he took a basket and a knife and walked toward the fields. The sweet potato field belonged to a widow, Liu Sao, and her only son, young Xiao Pao. Now, Liu Sao knew that New Year's Eve was usually a good time for people to steal sweet potatoes since she would be busy cooking for New Year's dinner. This year, Liu Sao, decided to take extra precautions. She walked her son to the fields to stand guard and promised to relieve him when she finished cooking dinner. Xiao Pao settled down in the tent his mother had pitched in the fields. He blew out the lamp and sat in the darkness. If somebody was going to come and steal, Xiao Pao had to catch the thief by surprise. He had a heavy stick almost as tall as himself, which he would use to strike the unwelcome visitor. It would be a blow that no thief could ever forget. After a long wait, during which he nearly fell asleep more than once, he saw a tall figure creeping surreptitiously into the small chapel at the edge of the field, where Tutipusa, the Buddha of earth, was worshipped. I'd better go and take a look, he said to himself. Since he was used to walking in the dark, he got into the temple and hid behind the altar in no time. A man was kneeling in front of the altar. In the dim candlelight, Xiao Pao was surprised to see that it was his former teacher, Mr. Ye. Kowtowing incessantly to the statue, Tutipusa, Mr. Ye said, Tutipusa, Tutipusa, tell me, what am I supposed to do? Aiken Sao almost killed herself because Aiken didn't come home. So I gave her my silver yan pao. Now my wife and I are going to starve. My wife wants me to remove some sweet potatoes from the field. Do you think it is all right for me to do so? If you think so, please show me a sign. Mr. Ye stood up, picked up the qian holder from the altar and drew out 2 qian and threw them on the ground. Then he closed his eyes and prayed. Qian are fortune-telling sticks people use to seek advice when they are not sure what to do. The qian have long and short lines engraved on each side. The way to work the qian is to throw 2 or 3 on the ground and read the pattern they form. A certain pattern will represent a go-ahead sign. When Xiao Pao heard what Mr. Ye was praying about, he laughed silently. Let me play Tutipusa, he said to himself, while Mr. Ye's eyes were still closed. Xiao Pao crawled under the altar and looked at the qian. They did not form a go-ahead pattern. He quickly flipped 1 qian over and crawled back under the altar. Mr. Ye opened his eyes, bent down, and looked at the qian. They formed a go-ahead pattern. He smiled. Tutipusa, he approved. You approve this? Thank you. But just to be sure, could you give me the sign one more time? He threw 2 more qian to the ground, closed his eyes, and prayed again. Xiao Pao tried hard to keep from laughing aloud, crawled out to make sure that the qian formed a go-ahead pattern. Go ahead again, cried Mr. Ye. Oh, Tutipusa, please give me the sign once more. As soon as I get some money, I will buy incense to honor you. He worked the qian again, and, of course, he was not disappointed. Thank you, Tutipusa, said Mr. Ye reverently. I promise to pay Liao Sao and Xiao Pao back as soon as I find a way to get some money. Mr. Ye kowtowed 3 times and walked out of the temple, with Xiao Pao quietly following him. Ah, teacher, Xiao Pao laughed to himself. You always told us that one should never steal, but today you yourself are breaking the rule. He stayed quietly on the edge of the field and watched as Mr. Ye put down the basket he had brought with him and started to dig sweet potatoes with a knife. Mr. Ye was an excellent teacher, but a terrible sweet potato digger. He was so inexperienced and afraid of being discovered that he progressed very slowly. Tutipusa, he cried again, can't you give me some help? Xiao Pao almost burst out laughing. Good, let's have some more fun, he said to himself. He took out a knife and started to dig up sweet potatoes from the plants around him with amazing speed. Then he tossed them at Mr. Ye. Sweet potatoes rained down on the old teacher, and some of them hit their target right on his forehead. Tutipusa, thank you, cried Mr. Ye. But don't go too fast. I can't keep up. Figuring that Mr. Ye had had enough, the little Tutipusa stopped, the little Tutipusa being that the one, his former student. Stopped, and Mr. Ye picked up his basket and went home. Soon after, when Liao Sao went to the fields to relieve her son, she found him away from his tent. Many holes in the field had been dug, and a lot of sweet potatoes were missing. Xiao Pao, where are you? She cried. Shh, shh, here I am. Xiao Pao crept out from the dark. I was playing Tutipusa, meaning he was pretending to be the Buddha. Tutipusa, look, so many sweet potatoes are gone. You must have been sleeping. No, Mr. Ye stole them, said Xiao Pao with a mischievous smile. That's not a nice thing to say. Mr. Ye is such a decent old gentleman. But it's true, and I helped him. Xiao Pao told his mother the whole story. Poor Mr. Ye. He must be having a hard time. Tomorrow morning, let's go wish him a happy new year and take him some new year food. He has always been so kind to you. The next morning, Xiao Pao and his mother went to wish Mr. Ye and his wife a happy new year. As they were approaching the house, they were surprised to hear Mr. Ye saying to Mrs. Ye, "Old woman, help yourself. Eat some Hong Xiao Ju." And Mr. Ye and Mrs. Ye saying, "Old man, don't be shy. Eat some cold sliced pork." The Xiao Pao was very upset. So Mr. Ye was lying. If he has money to buy pork, why did he come and steal our sweet potatoes? Shh, let's look, said his mother. They peeped through the window and saw Mr. Ye putting a piece of red-skinned sweet potato into his wife's bowl, as she was putting a white-skinned sweet potato into his bowl. They were both making believe that they were eating pork. They were just pretending. Xiao Pao laughed and banged on the door. "Mr. Ye! Mr. Ye!" Mr. Ye sprang from his chair and looked at his wife. "Xiao Pao is here." Mrs. Ye quickly took away the remaining sweet potatoes, while Mr. Ye looked for a place to hide the skins of the ones they'd eaten. He rushed over to the stove, threw the skins into a pot, and put the lid on. Once in the house, Xiao Pao knelt down and wished Mr. Ye and his wife a happy new year. Mr. Ye's face became very red when Liao Sao handed him the new year food. A minute later, Aiken Sao came in with her daughter, Hien Hua. "Thank you, Mr. Ye. You saved us. Without the money you brought back to me, we would have been lost." "So you all are here," a voice behind them made them all turn around. Aiken was standing by the door. Remember the guy who didn't come home for a year? Aiken Sao was so ecstatic. "Aiken, I came to thank Mr. Ye for bringing me the money you sent me. Without it, Yinghua would have been sold." "What is this all about?" asked Aiken. "I never asked Mr. Ye to bring you any money." He looked confused. "I know everything about this," said Xiao Pao. And in a few sentences, he told the whole story. Aiken and his wife fell on their knees. "Thank you, Mr. Ye," they said. Xiao Pao walked over to the stove. He took the lid off the pot where the sweet potato skins were hidden. "Hong Xiao Ju," he exclaimed, tossing them into the air. He laughed out loud. Okay, so without having written it, we know that this is a happy ending. We know that Aiken will probably pay Mr. Ye back. We know that that the other family that owned the owned the sweet potato farm, will give Mr. Ye and his wife a wonderful dinner and food for their New Year dinner. And it has a happy ending. And it's very similar to the Qilin purse. If you have an opportunity, a chance to do something good for someone, you should do it because happiness will come back to you. And Mr. Ye he and his wife experienced that same phenomenon. All right. Well, with that, we have a few more stories, like 2 more, I think. That was 7. I think there's 2 more stories and we'll be done. For now, we'll see you till tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care, have a great day, and relax, enjoy. Bye-bye.